Tikiyama Kalaallit Nunaata tungasuella inu hatikka nanituinna miut nunavumio hatikka ila inu hatikka nunavummiut inu hatikka nunatseavummiut ammalu tamani Alaska miumi tamani tu halaumimat inu tsuta nunakjuami angiyumi nunahatta upigusuti yaga sivulipami. Just wanted to say a few words in my language. Thank you very much. Huyana. We have mountains, but not as big as your beautiful mountains in Kalaallit, Nunaata. That's called Itjorittuk. It's a funny name. Itjorittuk in our language means big balls, so that's big balls there. Our planes fly anywhere in Nunavik. We have planes that are equipped with skis, wheels, and so forth, and float planes as well. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Inuit was founded in 1978. It was started by the Inuit of Nunavik to take control of our own transportation, to control costs, and keep the money in the region. And in all the years that we've been flying, we've flown over 1.5 million people, with a population of 12,000 people, mainly flying the owners of this company. So in the last 38 years in August that we've been flying the Inuit of Nunavik. We started off with a beaver, and I'm gonna go later on in the slide, I'll show you what we're flying today now. And we've flown over 6,500 medevacs. We've carried over 175 million pounds of cargo. We've flown over 500,000 hours. We employ roughly anywhere from 600 to 650 people, depending on the season. If we can go to the next slide, please. As Adami spoke yesterday, that one of the subsidiaries that Makivik owns is Air Inuit. Air Inuit is one of the oldest companies that Makivik owns. I'm very proud to be the president of this company. I was the president of Makivik for 14 years, so I've been around the Inuit world for the last 24 years, so I'm not new to this game, but very, very proud that we've come a long way. As I said, Air Inuit was bought to take control of our transportation. As the minister spoke earlier about Airlink being our link to the outside world. Without the airplane, we're very much isolated. During the short summer seasons that we have ships that come, but mainly bringing cargo to the region. But the airplane is our taxi, is our medevac, is our bus, is our lifeline to the world. So it's important that we took control of our own transportation in Nunavik. And Mr. Grimson, I'm sorry I overlooked you. Thank you for this. And I also want to acknowledge our Minister of Native Affairs, Jeff Kelly, for taking the time to come and listen to the people of the North. If we can go to the next slide, please. These are, our main route is providing service to the 14 Nunavik communities. But we also fly to Wabush, Seattle, Quebec City, La Grande, Montreal. But our main service is to provide service to the owners of the company, which are the Inuit of Nunavik. And Mr. Grimson, back in 2006, we actually flew to Iceland. So we're chartered, a scheduled operation, so we go all over the world, so we've been to Iceland as well. And any of you here that want to use Air Inuit, I left some pamphlets at the front. So if you're interested in looking at our company, our profile, please come and have a look. We operate in the Arctic. We have the expertise. We've been doing it for 38 years safely. Short commercial break. Next slide, please. The planes that we presently fly are the 737-200. You might be wondering why we're flying an older airplane. This 737-200 that we fly has a gravel equipped. It's the only plane that can land in gravel. So we have no choice but to use the 737-200. We also have the Dash 8-300, 7 of them, the Dash 8-300 cargo. We're presently working on a Dash 8-300 with a bigger cargo door, which will be the first one in the world in 2017. So we're very proud that we're working with Bombardier to come up with a Dash 8-300 with a bigger cargo door. As I said, the plane is our lifeline to the outside world, so all the goods that we have to bring have to be brought in, whether it's snow machine, whether it's four-wheelers. So we've been working with Bombardier for the last few months. We also have the old 748 because of the bigger cargo door. As soon as we have the Dash 8-300 with the bigger cargo door, that 748 will be taken out of the fleet. And I also want to acknowledge the government of Quebec for the support they gave us to work on this Dash 8-300 with the bigger cargo door. We also fly the Twin Otter, which is one of my favorite airplanes for flying in the Arctic. It can fly slow, it can land in a very short airstrip. Then we also have the King Air 100s that we do cross-country flights with. So Air Inuit flies 25 of its own airplanes. If we can go to the next airplane, I just want to quickly touch upon Hydro-Quebec. We've been flying Hydro-Quebec's airplanes for the last 23 years. They are a ground corporation that belong to the government of Quebec, and they've been very happy with the service that we've provided for them in the 23 years that we fly their 400s with our own pilots, our maintenance people. Next slide, please. Just to give you an idea, the number of people working for the company, as you can see, 686 people. Out of those 686 people, 167 of them are Inuit. It's a challenge trying to keep Inuit employed in the company when we have a small population base, plus other organizations competing for the same people that you have. But I'm proud to say that we actually have 14 Inuit pilots flying for us, and 150 different people working on the ground. So a total of 167 beneficiaries working for Air Inuit out of 686 people. Next slide, please. We built a beautiful building in Montreal. Mr. Kelly talked about Plan North. When Jean Charest was the Premier of Quebec, I told Mr. Charest at that time, we also have our own plan, what's called a Plan South. So we built this beautiful building. we built this beautiful building. We opened it in 2012. And so we have our offices, our hangar. We also have Hydro-Quebec as a client in this building for their offices, plus their planes that they have. So we actually have 2 hangars in this building. It was quite an expensive undertaking, but worthwhile, because we're going to be in the airline business for years to come. So we decided to invest a whole lot of money in the south to accommodate our needs for our operation in the north. Next slide, please. As you can see in the hangar, it's very bright. It's a green building. It's recognized as a Leeds building. I only got a minute or 2 left, so next slide, please. We pride ourselves in our safety. In our 38-year history, we've been very fortunate that we have an intact safety record. We have a little mishap here and there, but nothing ever, we've never lost a life, so we're very fortunate, so knock on wood. So I'm an accountable executive for the company. If we can go to the next slide, please. We go above and beyond what's required by Transport Canada. We've invested in the equipment that we need to operate in the kind of environment that we operate out of. Next slide, please. Maintenance is done in our building. Everything is done almost in-house. For heavy maintenance, we go outside. Next slide, please. Safety, as I said, is our #1 priority. Keeping our customers happy, making sure the fleet that we have is the fleet that we need to operate in the environment that we have. We have stability, we have long-term employees. On average, our employees would be, let's say, 15 years. I have an employee that's been working for us for 34 years. So it gives you an idea, people want to stay with Air Inuit. Next slide, please. But before I finish, I took a few notes. I also wanted to acknowledge my chairman, Andy Morehouse. He's a great dynamic leader from my region. He just got elected recently to the portfolio of economic development. So I'm happy to say that Andy, I'm not trying to gain any brownie points by stating that, but he is a great guy. And one other thing, I haven't heard the second bill yet, so I'm still safe. They told me that if I hear the third bill, the security will be coming to take me out. So the theme of this conference is challenges. One of the challenges, as we all know, is the weather. We can't control the weather, so bear with us. The weather affects our operation. So, huyana, ilunasi, I wanted to talk more. I can talk all along. If you want to talk to me some more, I have my business cards here. I have our cards in the front. So, huyana. But before I finish, I also wanted to acknowledge one of the board of directors of Air Inuit, Adam Idilio. So, ilunasi, nakumik huyana. Those are the two in the front.
Bueno. And the last speaker of this topic is CEO for Airlines, Pelle Broberg. Again.
It's always good to be last just before dinner or lunch, so I know nobody will be paying much attention. But I'll be doing it in English, but I have to say something in Greenlandic first. Asisakka inuaqatikka qaqqusjuulluunaalakkersuisunin siulittaasuq Kim Kielsen ammalu Islannin præsidentia Olafur Ragnar Grimson qønaq qaqqusissutissinut oqalungarnissamut. It is quite a privilege to be invited to speak at Arctic Circle, especially considering Alu Airlines has no airlines systems in place. We have no aircraft, we have no helicopters, and we don't have any ships either. We have applied for and gotten political approval to operate in Greenland back in 2015, and our premise was to start up as a virtual airline, which means that we won't be operating on our own AOC, Air Operator Certificate. It's based with the premise of, if needed, we would get those approvals as well. Now, in my preparation for today, I had to edit out most of the information that I had included in our PowerPoints. Could we go to the next slide? And the reason for it is stated at the bullet points. We are currently participating in the Government of Greenland's tender for service contracts in Greenland. And for those of you that doesn't know what that means, is quite simple to explain. Greenland is comprised of 13 airports, 46 heliports. Most of you have been to Nuuk, either direct from Iceland or through Sonnerström, Gangelhussuaq. And it's quite baffling to actually realize there's a world outside of Nuuk, and that the rest of Greenland also needs transportation. That's our key focus right now, and we are still in the process of negotiation, so I cannot lift any information of the progress so far, not even the proposed aircraft types. And some of it is of my colleagues sitting up here that is also participating in the same tender. And for the next slide. What we have tried to do is listen to the Government of Greenland's request for a modern fleet capable of servicing the needs of its customers, which is the inhabitants of Greenland. And some of their requests have been, not surprisingly, cheaper prices, better reliability. As he just said, we can't control the weather, but we can control the maintenance and the status of the aircrafts. And as he said as well, I'm trying not to say the same things twice, but cargo is a life necessity for Greenland as well as the rest of the Arctic. And it is very, very important to underscore that all the communities that are not serviced by big airplanes, that are not getting all the tourists directly, still have to make a living, and most of the stuff they get is by air, which is why I applaud that they getting a pure cargo version of the large cargo door for the 300 as well. Now, since everybody has been pressed for time with the presentations, my presentation would be kept short with regards to Alua Airlines. And as I said, the primary reason for this is because we're still in the negotiation phase. Now, for a conference like this, it is important to highlight some of the stuff that has been said. Nuuk, Ilulissat are planned to be expanded to 2,200 meters, and everybody who has been up here has told you how cyclical the passenger flows are. Servicing an airport twice a week for the cost of building a 2,200 meters is, in my view and our colleagues' view, maybe not the sensible way, because we have to remember some of the keywords for this conference is sustainability. Arnie told you that back in 2002, there was a proposed lengthening of Nuuk and Ilulissat to 1199, and we really like that view as a way of thinking, because it would give the government of Greenland and all the tourist operators a chance to increase the passenger flows, the traffic flows with tourists on a gradual basis, which is also something I noted the President of Iceland highlighted yesterday. Don't make big projects. We have to gradually evolve the Arctic region. Now, as I said, I have to keep it short, mostly because I don't want to spend my time up here talking about numbers in Greenland. And last slide. I just want to let you know that one of the things we've done is we've been talking to the end customers, which include private enterprises and freight forwarders and officials from each municipality. Not surprisingly, everybody said the same thing. We need cheaper prices. And that is what we are trying to get at with Alua Airlines. Unfortunately, I can't show you how we will plan to do it yet, but I want to keep it short and stop for now, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them later on. Thank you.
We're a bit delayed in our time, but I've been giving some minutes to some questions. And if possible, please address the question to one of the gentlemen over there and start with present yourself. So, we have the first question.
Hey, my name is Kathy Tautungi, president of Nunavut Tungavik Inc. Nunavut would like to have closer connections with Kalaallit. We have similar cultures, and we like Inuit in Kalaallit, Nunaat. Has there been any plans to reroute either from Iceland or Nunavik Air with connections from Nuuk, Greenland to Iqaluit or Iqaluit to Nunavut? Because we all long to have closer connections with the Arctic. And I wonder, because I know Air Greenland was canceled, but Nunavut, Inuit, Kanak have relatives. So that's my questions. Are there any plans to upstart that? NTI would economically support that venture. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question. There has been operations on that route for many years in cooperation with First Air and Greenland Air back in the day, The big problem is that the demand is very low on this route, and we would love to keep that route running. When we opened up the route a few years ago, it was sustained by the mineral industry mainly. And since the decline in the mineral exploration business here in Greenland, that route is no longer economically viable. So it will require support from both the community in Nunavut and in Greenland, governmental support to open up that route.
Thank you. If I could just add to that, as my colleague just mentioned, that First Air and Air Greenland used to work on this route because of the non-capacity, or there was no real big demand. We had to cancel what we had before. But as I said earlier, we are open to discussions with whether it's Air Greenland or with the Kalaallit government. We would be ready to look at different options that we could possibly open this route again. So, but in closing, I wanted to acknowledge Martin, Felix, Mark, Anya. Thank you for getting us here safely. I forgot to mention that. Thank you.
Anyone who had to add to this question? Okay. The next question is from the gentleman over there.
A question for Mr. Sorensen. You mentioned almost in passing the word hotel, and with all these rosy predictions of new people arriving, where are they going to sleep?
Can you say that again? The sound is a little bad.
There are all these rosy predictions of increased passengers arriving. You mentioned, I think, the word hotel almost in passing, as if it's not your responsibility to invest in the accommodations. I wonder how you're going to sleep all these people, unless you have virtual hotels. That's a good idea. Or rent cruise ships when they don't have any other place to go and use them as hotels.
Yeah, that is one of the big problems today is capacity. If you look at Ilulissat, which is a very popular tourist destination, the capacity is maxed out during the summertime, so we need to improve capacity, and that's also part of our growth strategy, that we need to be part of that to increase the incoming capacity of the tourist industry. I don't know if that answers your questions, but I still couldn't really hear what you said.
Okay, good. That's what we had the time for, and thank you for your input, gentlemen, this time. And I know we are going to have the coffee break now, and it's going to be a short coffee break. Thank you.
Welcome back from the short coffee break. The next session is about to begin, and it's about shipping and the part 2 of the transport session. A quick announcement to make. The Wi-Fi connection is fixed. Many of you must have been frustrated this morning. No internet connection, but it should be okay now. And another thing, I want to remind those who are going to network lunch with the West Nordic Council that is in the room back here on the left side. So take it on, Hans-Peter Poulsen.
Yeah, thank you. And the topic hasn't changed from the previous session, and it's about giving an overview of business opportunities, infrastructure plans, and real projects currently taking place in Greenland and among shipping companies. And what are the prospects for the regional business partnerships in securing transport connectivity between neighboring Arctic countries? We have those gentlemen, 5 gentlemen here, who's going to make the speeches. And to start, the topic is Vice Premier and Minister for Housing, Building and Infrastructure, Knud Christiansen. Again.
Qoynak tassiuliani uqaasaqarnin angallan eqqarsaatialiu silaanak angallan eqqarsaatialiu Ima annertungaatiartimaamna khatatungaani aama imaatigit assartuineq tiginnikuakku taamaasillu piffittaq aterluarmallu taan innersuutittoora qoyanarlaama periarfittam taamatut qoyanaq.
Thank you. The next speaker is CEO for Eimskip, Gylvi Sigforsson. Again.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Premier of Greenland, Mr. Kim Kielsen, Mr. President Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, and other distinguished guests. My name is Gylvi Sigforsson, and I'm the President and CEO of Eimskip Group, and I've worked for the company for 26 years. I would like to thank you for inviting me to the Arctic Circle Forum here in Greenland to present to you our future vision of shipping in the Arctic. See if I know how to operate this. No? Master of Ceremony. As you all know, Eimskip is the oldest shipping company in Iceland with over 102 years experience in serving the markets here in the high north in the Arctic. Eimskip played a vital role in the fight for the independence of Iceland, and it was a very important step towards our independence and freedom to control our own vessel fleet and have a full control over our exports and imports. We have served our markets through the 2 world wars, through times when it was almost difficult or almost possible to pick up and deliver cargo and goods for the countries in the high north to and from Scandinavia, Europe, and North America. We have been the agents and good partner of Royal Arctic Line from its foundation in 1993, and where they have their connection and sailing via Reykjavik. Here you can see our sailing system, how it has been built up in the past years. And after the World War banking crisis, Eimskip decided to strengthen its core business by focusing on a strong sailing system with a specialized focus on the fish industry, the industrial projects, and the imports and exports needed to serve the markets in the North Atlantic. Our main focus was also on diversifying the operation through joint ventures and acquisitions, focusing on opportunities in Eimskip's home market, the North Atlantic. Part of the challenge we have been facing is the limited volumes because of the market we serve, especially compared to the advantages of the bigger countries and bigger shipping lines. It's a pleasure for me to inform you that this morning, Eimskip and Royal Arctic Line joined forces and signed a letter of intent to build together 3 vessels to connect the 3 vessels into Eimskip's international sailing system through a capacity sharing agreement. I will not go into any details of these plans, but looking at our sailing system, I can give you a sense towards what the cooperation is all about. The companies intend to invest in and operate 3 2,000 TEUs container vessels that will take over the role of 700 TEUs vessels. Vessels that will be in much more economical and environmental friendly, both in terms of fuel efficiency, and they consume much less fuel per TEUs. In addition, the capacity sharing on larger vessels will increase efficiency and productivity. We will have better ways of securing our cargo in rough seas and therefore add to the service reliability and security of our sailing routes. The only way to reach this is by pooling Eimskip's volume together with Royal Arctic Line volumes that will allow us to economically use larger vessels for the trade so both companies can facilitate efficiency gains. Bigger vessels will also add on capacity for the future growth of these markets. But this could not be possible if it wasn't for the planned port developments in Nuuk, Reykjavik, and Tórshavn in the coming 2 to 3 years that will enable larger vessels to serve in the market area. The cooperation with Royal Arctic Line is therefore not only an important step of renewal and development of the future vessel fleet, but also this will expand the coverage of the North Atlantic sailing system and be a huge step to connect Greenland with the rest of the world. Hopefully this will also connect better the access of the North, Greenland, Iceland, Faroe Islands, Northern Norway, and Newfoundland, and with our new port in Portland, Maine, USA, to increase business activities between the countries of the West Nordic. This is therefore a very important step forward for Greenland, which will in the future be connected to an international transportation system in the North Atlantic, providing the opportunity for exporters to transport its export directly to destinations in Europe and North America in a more efficient way. This also provides an opportunity for Greenlandic importers to transport directly from new markets area, adding more variety of goods for their customers instead of having almost all volume imported to Greenland transported through Denmark. And we've actually seen this happening in Faroe Island, where we connected Faroe Island with our system, where they were almost everything was coming from Denmark, and now today 65% of their imports are coming from Denmark. So the estimated time of designing and building the vessels is 2 to 3 years, and at the same time, the construction in these 3 ports will hopefully be finished. These new vessels will be designed and built for the special weather conditions in the Arctic and the North Atlantic, and in accordance with the new polar code. So at this stage, this is all about cooperation, and I thank Mr. Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson for bringing us together in this Arctic session here. And for us, this has always been around cooperation, and for us to pull together our volume to be able to make this big step is a great step forward for all the nations here in the Arctic. So I'm happy to call to the podium my colleague and veteran in shipping with almost 30-year experience in worldwide shipping, Mr. Werner Hammeken, CEO of Royal Arctic Line. And thank you again for listening, and I congratulate you all on this big step towards the future of shipping in the Arctic. Thank you very much for listening. Together we can do things.
And there we also showed the difference between Eimskip and Royal Arctic Line in size. Yeah, Your Excellencies, I know Kim is not here, but I will greet him anyway. Premier of Greenland, Kim Kielsen. President of Iceland, Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, and ministers, business associates, friends of Greenland. I would like to also thank Naalakkersuisut and Arctic Circle for giving us this opportunity to share this, what I would say, wonderful news today. And I think also we should give Gylfi a hand, because Gylfi just told you something that is really the essence of why we are here, to foster regional relationships in the West Nordic. So let's give Gylfi a hand for his presentation. And then I promise I will learn how to pronounce Gylfi. Yeah, it's about collaboration. And Gylvi just talked about how Royal Arctic Line and Eimskip will collaborate to sail the high seas of the North Atlantic. I will talk a little bit about why. I will talk a little bit about what we see in Greenland of, let's call it challenged economical development, double-digit unemployment numbers, a decreasing population. I will not talk about the melting ice. I mean, that's important too. But the melting ice is not what we see yet in our day-to-day business. And even though we have opportunities coming with the melting ice, and we have environmental concerns about that, it will not be the subject of today. What will be the subject of today is the challenges that we are trying to solve, the real challenges of today. Yesterday, we heard a little bit about that Greenland needs jobs, Greenland needs growth. We also heard about the need for implementing the initiatives that Greenland is taking to improve its situation. We also yesterday and even today heard a lot about how infrastructure is seen to actually stimulate growth. And we also heard about partnerships leading to success. And I think what we are doing today with the partnerships between Eimskip and Royal Arctic Line will certainly prove that this is the way forward. We also heard it's not just about economical growth, but it's also about growing socially and growing living standards and to grow with dignity. And as part of that, also securing self-reliance. As a company, we have a very simple vision. Very simple. We simply want to make it easy to do business with Greenland. And this is because we acknowledge that driving a sound business environment stimulates growth. But most people can say, yeah, that's nice with such a vision, but what does it really mean? For us, it means that infrastructure certainly can be proven to drive growth. If we are easy to do business with as a country, then we can stimulate a lot of factors in the economy. One of the things we think about when we talk about making it easy to do business with Greenland is to stimulate job creation. So if we have the infrastructure to cater for more domestic production, to create higher value of the products that we actually harvest in these waters around here, then we believe that there is a factor to count in when it comes to growth. We also talk about more direct access to markets if the infrastructure is working. That means faster transit times. That means more jobs to people working with export goods. We also believe that better infrastructure gives higher value of the products that we produce. And that is simply caused by the fact that value adding to the export raw material can be done in place here in Greenland and then be exported directly to the world markets faster. It means more fresh products, and it also means that we can combine things, for instance, with air solutions to get even very fresh products out to the world markets. Last but not least, good infrastructure also reduces the cost of living. It gives flexible purchasing options for our businesses in Greenland, those that are existing, but also new ones. This also comes with digitization. Today you can order things literally by clicking on a mobile phone. And by having an infrastructure in place that can bring these goods and items to Greenland in an easy way will stimulate alternatives to what we see today. This will foster competition between importers, and competition is always good for price. Bottom line is that making infrastructure effective, making it easy to do business with a country, it's good business. Now, who are we to talk about improving infrastructure? We are Royal Arctic Line. Royal Arctic Line is a shipping company, and we are proud of that. We are fully owned by the Greenlandic government. We are around 700 people. We have a turnover of around $125 million, of which we book around $14 million as net profit last year. We do shipping to and from and within Greenland. We do port operations in 13 ports in Greenland. We do a container terminal operation in Denmark, as well as warehousing facilities both in Greenland and Denmark. And we do special projects for military and research facilities, both in Greenland, but also in Antarctica. If we look at our service scope, we service around 17 cities and more than 55 settlements around the coastline, which is 44,000 kilometers, some say even more. What is important to note here is that out of these nearly 70 locations or 75 locations we serve, 20% of the population lives in 80% of these locations. That means we have to sail an awful long distance to service a very low part of the population, and that makes it very, very expensive. We serve today the Atlantic with two vessels, primarily two vessels, sometimes three, and these vessels are going into smaller ports in Greenland, which makes them very ineffective as ocean-going vessels. And this is one of the reasons why teaming up with Eimskip will assist us to drive the cost down. There's one thing we are awfully good at, and that is to sail in ice. As some say, we are very good at sailing in hard water. And these pictures just illustrate a little bit of what we do. We could even have found some more interesting pictures, but we sail in ice. We come to settlements where we have to bring everything ourselves. That means barges. We even bring our own truck. And the last picture you see is our ice shelf operation in Antarctica, where we support the Norwegian research stations in Antarctica when the vessel is not able to sail in Greenland during our winter here. So we are very, very proud of being able to sail in hard waters. But we fail miserably when it comes to connecting Greenland with the rest of the world. Today we operate everything between Greenland and Denmark. And we do this with containers. Containers have since 1960s stimulated a growth industry of 9% per year. 9% per year is an awful lot. But when it comes to Greenland, the only connection that has been made available to Greenland for the past many years is via Denmark. Although we have had certain links via Reykjavik to North America. A hub in Denmark does not provide work in Greenland. When we talk about a very closed loop, we do not have any alternatives when it comes to transportation. And also, we have had our own infrastructure instead of collaborating with others, limiting our options for optimizing it. So if we want to make it easy to do business with Greenland, create jobs, lower cost, provide higher value, we need to do a few things. One of the things has already been mentioned. We need to move the hub back to Greenland, make sure that we get all the flexibility that comes with that. And secondly, we also need to build a network we can connect this hub to globally. And this is what Gilby talked about just before. So we are linking now Greenland with not only Denmark, but the rest of the Nordic countries. We are linking Greenland to the continent and the UK. We are continuing from there to Asia with other carriers, which effectively means that we get what you would call the Paris metro map of solutions for transportation. And this is very nice, and it is happening, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what's so nice. So we actually believe that with these initiatives, that we are a step, only one step closer to realizing our vision. There's still a long way to go, But as somebody said just before, earlier today, if we can dream it, we can do it. Thank you.
The next speech is the Managing Director of Jury Projects and Transport, Thomas Vestergaard. Again.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. Thank you very much to Arctic Forum for this opportunity. However, I do not have such exciting news as you two gentlemen. I will walk you through my presentation, first of all, of the Judy history. Secondly, how Judy is today. And last but not least, our Arctic view. It's no secret that our Arctic view is currently more focused on Norway and especially Russia. But Judy have roots back to 1883. We are a proud shipping company since then and still today. However, it's not that exciting to be ship owner without own cargo anymore, but we still are. Judy have developed throughout the years and is entering the offshore market and bulker market through the 80s. Offshore and towage, which segment we still are within today. In 2006, we move into logistics, and later on in 2007, we move into project transport. When we're talking about Judy, we're also talking about the family. Judy is a family-owned company and have been since 1883. We have Felix Judy on our left hand and his father on the right hand side. Felix on the left hand is today the daily owner of and the daily operator of Judy Group, which consists of many varied companies within service for the fish farming industry, offshore and towage, etc. Judy today is a complete different company as we were in the past, even 10 years ago. Today, Judy is more knowledge-based and less assets-based. Judy, as said, is today led by Mr. Felix Judy and the Judy family. Our segments are currently ocean towage, salvage and wreck removal with our own tugboat. This is actually the Costa Concordia. Offshore support for the oil and gas industry around the globe, currently not that active related in Africa. Engaged transport, project cargoes, transportation. This is a bridge for Copenhagen, railway bridge outside Copenhagen. Here's a map showing Judy today and our focus in the north, which I want to stress out for the rest of this presentation. We are located in 13 countries, 10 countries with 13 offices. And in the North Norway, we have our service facilities for fish farms in the Skjærvø on the northwest coast. And in Kirkenes, we have a strong presence, which I'm going to introduce you to now. Our Arctic view is currently turning towards Kirkenes and Russia, but with a Greenlandic touch. Earlier this year, we were happy to announce that we signed a full service agreement together with the ARC, who is also present here today, by Eldur. We signed a full service agreement for the Nanolag and Marmolik mines. Judy will be responsible for transportation, employment, and a lot of locals. We will be responsible for sourcing and purchasing throughout the year. And this includes chartering of helicopters, shipping services by Royal Arctic Line, etc. Getting back to Norway, our home base, and Kirkenes. Kirkenes is located very close to the Russian border and have a strong history together with the Russian. Currently, we are in Tjudi, owner of an iron ore mine there, which make us able to fulfill one of our goals and dreams in Tjudi is using the Northern Sea route. We have, during the past years, shipped iron ore out of Kirkenes to China via the Northern Sea route without calling Russian ports. This is currently, unfortunately, not commercially sustainable due to the low oil price, which hit $49 yesterday, but still is low, and due to the low shipping cost, which means that we can afford to spend the time going south. However, it's possible to take the Northern Sea routes. The Russians are still using the Northern Sea routes, and over the past 5 years, there's actually been 175 vessels in transit via the Northern Sea route. Currently, there are operating 4 atomic-driven icebreakers, and 2 new is under construction for slightly delayed in delivery, but for delivery, as far as I remember, in 2018 and 20. Beside that, we are shipping quite a lot of aggregates into the northern Russian waters for building up facilities for the oil and gas industry. These aggregates you can see actually being discharged here in Russia. It's on Sabeta. It's still a big dream for Tjudi to build our hub in Kirkenes for import and export via the Northern Sea route to and from Russia and Far East. On this drawing, you can see the biggest dream. However, on the lower left, you can see a bulker underloading. This is the quays which are in place today and used both for import and export. Why we see a potential in Kirkenes, such an outskirt area in the world. Kirkenes is, when you turn the world around, a perfect spot. It's great connected with the Northern Sea route. It's ice-free, which means that you are able to call Kirkenes with vessels without ice class for bringing cargo either to or from Far East as a shuttle carrier. So to cook it down, you can import cargo with ice-classed vessel via the Northern Sea route and from further distribution to continent or Norway via Kirkenes. Beside that, you have the potential of shipping with the river barges on the Russian waters, either for import or export. Last but not least, Kirkenes is located close to Hammerfest and the oil and gas province in the northern Norway and northern Russia. There's activity currently going on the Yamal Peninsula for the Yamal oil and gas project. So it's not just a dream there. There is various projects coming in and out of the northern Russia and northern Norway. This is a oil rig berthed on a semi-submersible vessel at our terminal in Kirkenes. Furthermore, we do ship-to-ship transfer of crude oil coming in from Russia by an ice-forced, ice-classed vessel, shipped into non-ice-classed vessels for further transportation worldwide. This is done, of course, to save cost for the ice-class vessel, so she can go back and load oil in the icy waters. And then brings me back to the conclusion. The conclusion is that definitely my conclusion is, and our conclusion in Tjudi is, that there are definitely a potential at the Northern Sea route, northern Norway, for transport in the Arctic. However, as many have said before today, talking about tourism, transport, etc., there is lacking cargo for our view, and there is lacking potential growth and sustainability, which can allow investments in these areas. Thank you much for your patience, and thank you much for the chance to talk here.
And the last speaker of the session is Director of Operations and Business Development, Patrick Arnold. Again.
Good morning. I appreciate the introduction. I'm Director of Operations and Business Development, not for everything, but for the Maine Port Authority. And Maine, of course, in the United States, is not an Arctic state, nor do we see ourselves in any way, shape, or form as anything but a facilitator. And the type of facilitator that we envision ourselves being is one in the North Atlantic that can communicate and respect the needs and develop opportunities with Newfoundland, with Greenland, with Iceland, with Norway, with the North Atlantic nations, but focused on this wonderful AIM-SCIP freight network that has started calling on the Port of Portland, Maine since 2013. So I just want to start with that so that everyone understands what Maine's intent is, but also introduce myself a little bit differently. I'm an entrepreneur, so I own a company, a small company with 7 employees. My company is contracted by the State of Maine Port Authority to do all the marketing, business development, and operations. That's why I have a title of Director of Operations and Business Development. Part of the reason for this was that as a state agency, sometimes bureaucratic organizations can't get out of their own way to allow the private sector to develop opportunity. And what I'm going to talk about is the economic infrastructure that makes use of the infrastructure and the investments we're all talking about here. I really appreciated the gentleman from Air Greenland talking about how, with all this capacity being added and the interest and demand on tourism to the high north, you need hotels. I think that's why in Iceland Air's case, they've gotten into the hotel business to some extent. And to some extent, there's vertical integration that's necessary for companies making such investments. But in the absence of that, collaboration at forums such as this amongst business partners, that can lead to that economic infrastructure that's necessary for making use of the capacity and the increase in demand. One other reason that as an entrepreneur, I'm in the private sector and I'm contracted by the Maine Port Authority is because in the private sector, you can say and do the things that are necessary to get things done. You can speak very candidly. So very candidly, I think sometimes all of us, human beings, spend too much time debating what we see at the summit of a mountain, rather than starting up together up a trail. And that is not the case today with the announcement that has been made here between AIM-SCIP and Royal Arctic Lines. This is collaboration in action. And I oftentimes use metaphors. I speak in metaphors because conveying information is critical to get a group of people to start doing things together. And so what has happened here between Royal Arctic Lines and AIM-SCIP is not dissimilar to your ability to check a bag at an airport, have connecting flights, but not have to recheck the bag, re-go through security, get yourself a new ticket. That saves cost, saves time, and makes it very easy for the private sector to then start doing business over that network. So I hope that helps everyone understand the value to private businesses in what has just happened here, and also how this is collaboration where we're starting up the trailhead and not discussing what we think is at the summit. Furthermore, Maine, working with Arctic nations, while there is a lot of talk about transpolar routes, the Northern Sea Route, the Northwest Passage, the Polar Sea Route, and all of it is valid, our concern when we started working with AIMSKIP was just that too much talk focused on that misses the opportunities that exist now. And I think there is such an opportunity to start things with what you already have, rather than describing or envisioning what you think you need to get going on business development. My company in Maine since 2009 has been operating and developing the International Marine Terminal on the Portland waterfront. And this was a dilapidated asset, an old ferry terminal, no freight, no business, no use. I like broken things, and I like fixing them. So it was a good opportunity. The other thing about broken things is not a lot of people want to walk into something that's dilapidated. So that's part of, again, that theme of challenges being actually opportunities. But in order to redeem that challenge as an opportunity, it starts with your perspective, and you have to work with what you already have in order to start to develop demand for some of that future capacity that everybody's excited to be talking about. So I want to touch on a few points here. As I said, in my entrepreneurial capacity, oftentimes I convey information differently. And so this is one such concept that we've used in the United States to help people understand the value of AIMSKIP coming to Maine. It's a concept we call cost-based geography. I think many of you are familiar with the geography of this region, so you all know that Iceland is not actually that close to the coast of Newfoundland or Nova Scotia or Maine. However, you are only as near or far from something as you can afford to be. If you show up to Keflavik, the international airport in Iceland, with €1,000 or $1,000 in your pocket, that might get you to Boston. That might also get you to Seattle. Boston and Seattle are very different geographically and distance-wise from Keflavik, but you're equally close from a cost perspective. This is a critical concept for what markets pay attention to and how the private sector is analyzing what opportunities it is investing in and it is going to explore. So, by AIMSKIP coming to Maine, we became equivalently as close to Iceland as we are by truck to New Jersey from a cost perspective. By AIMSKIP coming to Maine, we became equivalently close to Greenland and Tromsø, Norway, as we are by truck to Virginia or Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. is a 14-hour truck drive for us, okay? But it's costly. So when you start looking at this and realizing this is the true paradigm, it's just presented to you a little bit differently, the private sector starts to consider opportunities they hadn't considered before. This is critical when we're talking about developing economic infrastructure. One thing I wanted to make a point of saying, the gentleman, Pita Atami, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the gentleman from Air Inuit, he mentioned how everyone has this plan Nord, or north, and Air Inuit has a plan south. What a wonderful concept. I think all of the Arctic needs plan south. Every nation, you have all these Arctic strategies and what have you. But in order to start developing economic infrastructure that is beneficial to the residents, the indigenous people and the residents of the Arctic, you need to have a plan south. In order to implement that plan south, it comes down to building relationships. This is such a good forum for building business-to-business relationships, and it has to be the right relationships, people who are actually going to supply something to someone else and make money in the process. Those are the relationships that you need to have to develop economic infrastructure. And crucially, in order for those relationships to work, there must be trust. So if you don't trust each other, that needs to be worked on in order for economic development to actually occur. Finally, talking about value-add opportunities. Anders Askol mentioned from the Sami and reindeer herders' perspective about the Tuborg plan, Tudor plan. The Tuborg plan's maybe at 6 o'clock this evening. I want to point out very quickly that freight is the arteries of the economy, and these containers are a metric of success if you have added value, because higher margin products move in containers. Low margin commodities move bulk, okay? So, in order to increase freight volumes through ports and on this network, you need to add value to that product to fill those containers. In the case of reindeer, in the United States, we have Brazilian keratin. Keratin is the protein that makes up the horns and the hooves of animals, and the Brazilians have just used their Brazilian brand to sell us shampoos and conditioners with keratin. That same keratin is in the antlers and the hooves of reindeer. So why not Norwegian-infused keratin from reindeer? Collagen is extracted from codfish. Iceland's the only country in the world utilizing 90% or more of its main species. I got 3 bells! I win! And then finally, from shrimp, prawn, lobster, chitosan. It's a coagulant. It's also a conditioning. Getting into biomedical, biotechnical products, these things can be done here, local to the resource. They need to be done here in order to build the economic infrastructure to build on the capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. We're just still a bit delayed, but I had 10 minutes. But now I have 8. So we have some time to some questions, and yeah, these 10 will answer. Any questions? Right?
Thank you very much for your presentations. My name is Rachel Johnston, Elisamutasarvik and University of Akureyri in Iceland. My question's for Gylfi. You mentioned port development in Tórshavn and Reykjavik and in Nuuk. And I wondered if you had any vision about Finnafjörður, if you thought that was a realistic project.
Am I on? Okay. If I heard you correctly, you said Finnafjörður. Yeah, well, we are now focusing on our main hubs in this system, which is then going to be Nuuk, Reykjavik, and Faroe Islands. So we have always seen Finnafjörður built up around the project about sailing from Asia and up north. So Finnafjörður is not in any of these programs of ours.
Okay. More questions? No? Good. I will thank the gentleman for this session, and thank you very much for your.
Just a quick reminder, because of our time schedule, we will begin again at 13:05, 5 minutes past 1. And I would kindly remind the parliamentarians and elected officials to go to the other lunch place in the Friendship Hall. So, have a nice lunch.